In 1950, American mathematician Albert Tucker spoke at Stanford University to psychologists, using a story to explain the principle of the prisoner's dilemma, a cornerstone of game theory. The story explores the dilemma faced by two suspects, Al and Bob, who are split up for individual interrogations and are each given conditional offers that impact their sentences based on whether they cooperate or betray each other. Albert thought, if Bob confesses and I don't, I'll be sentenced 20 years. If I confess, it would be a 10-year sentence. If Bob doesn't confess, and I also don't confess, I'll be sentenced to only 1 year. But if I confess, I will be exempted from the prosecution. So no matter whether Bob confesses or not, confessing is my best option. Bob thought the same. In the end, both of them, choosing rationally, confessed and were sentenced to 10 years. However, if they chose irrationally to keep silent, they would only have been sentenced to a year each. Rational choices do not necessarily lead to the best outcomes. This prisoner's dilemma later became the most famous problem in game theory. Another similar problem concerns cooperation and betrayal or deceit, circa 1970. Game theory began being used to solve a dilemma in evolutionary biology that has puzzled biologists since Darwin era. Why would inherently selfish organisms evolve cooperative behavior, an unreflective instinctive behavior under natural selection, even for single-celled organisms that have no thinking ability, like yeast? Yeasts usually rely on monosaccharides, glucose and fructose, for nutrition. If there are no monosaccharides in the environment, yeast can use other sugars such as sucrose that need to be digested into monosaccharides with the help of enzymes. Those yeast that can launch this digestion process are considered the Samaritans, cooperators. However, other cheater yeast cells, those who experienced a genetic mutation causing the loss of an enzyme-producing gene, would simply steal the monosaccharides produced by the Samaritans, thereby saving the cost of production for the community. Cooperation would be the most beneficial, but for individuals, playing the cheater role is more beneficial. Researchers at the University of Houston conducted an experiment demonstrating that the more Samaritans in a yeast community, the more beneficial it would be to play the cheater, suggesting a resemblance to the prisoner's dilemma. Researchers at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology recently found that the Samaritans don't share 100% of the monosaccharides that they produce. They keep a small portion, about 1%, giving them a slight advantage over the cheaters. The experimental results indeed reveal that at the beginning, when the number of Samaritans and the amount of monosaccharides is small, the Samaritans' higher monosaccharide utilization rate, 1% more efficient, gives them an undeniable advantage. When the number of Samaritans reaches a considerable scale, the cost of producing monosaccharides shows its downside and the cheater's advantage becomes more evident. However, a balance will eventually be achieved in the Samaritan-cheater proportion within the population, then converge to a commonality as it evolves, regardless of the initial proportion. This calls to mind the similarity to the snowdrift game, in which going against the flow is the best strategy. Be the cheater among Samaritans, and be a Samaritan when everyone else is a cheater. Herein lies the highest possibility of success.